Hi, welcome back to the Dental Business Hub. It's my pleasure today to introduce John Waller. John is known as the on-hold guy. He has a fabulous business helping dentists redeem the time that patients spend on hold. None of us want that, but when it happens, it's a great idea to have a product that helps you introduce your practice in the best light possible to your patient. John, welcome. Tell us all about it.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, I help in dental practices for over 28 years, utilize an asset that most business owners don't even realize that they have in their business or practice. That's hold time. And like you just so eloquently said, yeah, nobody wants to put anybody on hold, but welcome to the planet. It happens. You got to do it.
It does happen.
So what we do is we create a custom patient education message. We write the script, provide the licensed music, the award-winning professional female, male voice talent, not bots, not AI, and the studio time. I hear people talking about wanting to do it themselves. That dog doesn't hunt. You got to have a professional studio and folks that create the message that sounds like it's an on-hold patient education message. And that's what we do. We write the script for the practice. The only thing the practice has to do, Monica, is approve the script once we write it for them. Send it back. We go into the studio and produce it, and out it comes. It's that simple.
One of the things that I've been seeing a lot of practices are needing bilingual support in areas like this. Do you have a bilingual option with what you do?
We try not to go there. We can do that, but what we do is for the Spanish, we'll have a sentence that mentions that the practice does speak Spanish. We'll just give them a sentence in there so that the folks calling know about it. But we don't want to upset the English-speaking people that are calling the practice by having something that's real long and winded in Espanol.
So you just have the option that if someone needs to speak Spanish, they know that they can get into the office to speak to someone in the office.
We'll put that in the message. We'll mention that the practice does speak Espanol. We'll mention that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you're on the on hold, what kind of messages are patients likely to hear? What do you talk about as far as the practice
That's
goes?
a great question. Everybody always asks me that. Typically, we want to, like your husband's a dentist. We want to talk about Doc's experience, what makes him tick. We want to build rapport with the dentist and the prospective patient or the current patient when they're calling. Let them know about what your husband is like, what he's all about, his hobbies, where he was educated, what makes him tick. And then we want to talk about the different services that the practice offers. We want to talk about types of insurance that they take. And something that I love to do is have testimonials on there. We'll just mention, first name, last initial. We want to have the actual patient doing the testimonial, but the voice talent will talk about the testimonial. And then we want to remind them if they're happy with the practice's service, make sure you go out and give us a Google review, because that helps the practice ranking on Google.
Okay. That's pretty valuable. What about if the doctor's running a special 1 month? Is it editable or is it just like a one-time forever?
Great question. It's editable. What we try to do is, because we will update the message for the practice as needed at no cost, because they're not going to be going in there and changing it and updating it all the time. We will mention, make sure you ask when we come back in the line, ask about this month's special. And maybe you could even mention, ask about our Invisalign special. Are we giving away a laptop or an iPad? Because I remember in California, there was a practice on 880, which is the interstate that goes by Raider Stadium. This dentist had a bunch of billboards, and I remember him talking, this is probably early 2000s, about getting a free iPad when you did Invisalign. So, make sure that they ask. I want to make sure the practices say that. Ask about this month's Invisalign special. That way you don't have to update the heck out of the message, but it's still on there.
Right. Right.
It's,
'Cause I was going to ask, when you do these updates, like how likely is it that you would get the same voice artist being able to do those updates, or would it sound like a bunch of different people?
That's a great question. Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to have the same voice talent. That's what's good about using somebody like us who has a monster stable of voice talent. We know who's doing your voices, female and male. So what we do is we alternate female and male every other paragraph. We alternate that voice talent, and we're going to know who your voice talent was.
That's interesting. What's the reasoning behind that, alternating?
Oh, I like to do it because that's who's calling your practice, is men and women and men. So you alternate it because it really refreshes it. I've called a lot of businesses and got put on hold, which is one of the things I do to qualify what somebody has on hold. And I will hear all female or all male. You don't want to do that because that's not who's just calling you. You want to alternate it.
Interesting. I never thought about it, but what kind of impact does alternating have? Because it seems to me if you're just on hold, usually you're going to get elevator music anyway, right?
Or crickets, dead air.
Or crickets, right? Well, elevator music's better than crickets, but
You get
I'm
both.
curious. I'm curious. Have you tried quantifying the value of having that alternating voice versus not?
It's huge. Oh yeah, it makes a ton of sense.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, like I said, because that's who's calling in, and it freshens it up. And if you change it and you have a longer message, then people don't even think about what how long they've been on hold. Okay, so back last century when we had cassettes and CDs, you could pretty much only do the message about 3 minutes long, and then it repeats, and so that triggers a thing in the brain that, oh, hey, it started all over again. I've been on here a while,
Right.
or 3 or 4 times. You don't ever want to do that. That's why I'm all about making sure that the message is, if it's got to be 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, make that puppy longer so that you don't know how long you've been on hold. Like back in the day when you called Southwest Airlines. I mean, it was humorous and it was long. It was a long message. You forgot about how long you were on hold. That's the psychology behind it.
Okay.
That's why
That makes
having
a lot of
dead
sense,
air,
yeah.
you're on there a long time. Or music, the same music repeats. Like I can tell you the name of the tier level Amazon music they have on tier level 2, because I've heard it so many times of being on at the Zon. I looked it up on YouTube. It's called Too Peachy. And so I like the music, but that's what it's called.
That's fun. That means you've definitely been on hold too long with Amazon for
Yeah,
sure.
big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, of course, when you retain that patient on the line, you have more chance to serve them, and that ultimately improves your ROI on the whole
Cross
investment.
promote. Something else that you asked me that question earlier about what to say. Well, one thing I'd love to do is, if a practice has more than one location, cross promote those locations. If you're in Florida and you're in Tampa Bay, St. Pete, Miami, Orlando, I mean, that's a great way for you to get referrals, because you got a relative or a friend that lives in Timbuk-7 somewhere and they can't get to your practice, but you would love to have them to have the same care that you get at Dr. XYZ's practice. If you hear on hold they have an Orlando practice, you can send your friend or relative to that other location. I mean, you've got a bunch of locations in your practice you're paying for. Why not market those on hold?
So what's the end of this? Like, there's sometimes the office is just terribly busy. And I know in other industries and in dental offices and in medical offices, sometimes the patient just wants to hang up because the hold wait is too long. Does the office get notified like that this patient, Mr. Jones, was on hold for X amount of minutes and needs a return call. Is there any data mining that goes on with
Not
your
unless I
product?
think you could do that with certain phone systems out there in dental land, but not as far as the on hold message telling you that. No.
Okay, so there's no way for them to say, like, to refer to a final voicemail, for instance, at the end of their on hold recording.
You might be able to do that on the on hold message and say, hey, do you want to leave us a message? Go ahead and press 3 to leave us a message. Or they have a system that, if like a callback system, like a lot of companies have. If you don't want to hang on hold, press 3 and put in your phone number and we'll call you back.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be good because even no matter how entertaining the message is, sometimes the patient has to go. They may be,
Sure.
heading to work or whatever.
Oh, you've been on hold for a boatload of minutes. I totally hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So they say press 3, leave a message, and we'll return your call, kind of
Right.
thing.
You will not lose your place in the queue. Right.
Great. Are you just working with dentists only, or is this in medical offices as well?
No, I've helped any kind of business over the last 28 years. Dental practices, derms, vets. My sister company is Eyes on Hold. We are the national leader in patient education messages for the eye care industry. My boss, Mike Roslow, is very passionate about eyes. He used to work for Bausch and Lomb. And so when he started this, he started the eye care as well.
About that. That's interesting. So you do some education on different procedures as well. Like if we're going to be running in a special on Invisalign, your agents can talk about what Invisalign is, what the stages look like. Can it be customized? Like different offices do different things, for instance.
It's totally customized. Yeah, it's not, it is, that's a great question. It's not cookie cutter. It's totally customized for your practice. That's what sets us apart is you want to have that message totally custom for the practice.
Interesting. I love that. Okay. So Dennis, I think this would be a great add-on for your phone system. If you're having, does it work with everything like Weave and, so many doctors have
Yeah, it's fun.
voice over IP and all these different
I'm a
systems.
I'm a real advocate for Weave, referring associate for Weave. I've referred folks to them. Yeah, several years ago, I was working with a practice back east. I got them involved with Weave. Yeah, I like Weave a lot.
Will you work with the Weave phone system because it's voice over IP, or
Totally.
is there?
Oh yeah, in fact, great question. We have onboarded over 300. I call them Weavers, Weave practices. Yeah, over 300. Because when I call up and I get put on hold, that flamenco music, and I'll say to Susie when she comes back, Susie, I bet you $100 you guys are Weavers. She goes, yeah. And then I'll ask them how they feel about Weave, and they'll tell me. So yeah, we totally replace that flamenco music for a patient education message.
So it's phone system agnostic. No matter what the phone system is, you're just going to be able to work with it.
Almost. So like if it's a VoIP phone system, like I've got a phone system on my desk here, I've got the Polycom with a 2-screen Polycom, and I could put you on hold and you hear my message from that. And then, so either whether it's Polycom or Yealink, those are fine because they're VoIP. But there are certain phones out there that we can't work with, like RCA phones that have no jack for a player, or a single line phone like you have at home. We can't work with it. There's no way to get that message onto that puppy, onto that phone. It's a single line phone.
Okay.
But most VoIP systems we can work with, and the older Lucent, Avaya, Toshiba, Meridian phones, NEC we can work with because we have a player that plugs into the music on hold jack with an RCA cable. And as they say,
So they're going to have a physical box on their desk that has the recorded messages in it, and they plug that.
Back, there's a box back in the back, and it's going to have an MOH jack for music on hold. We just plug the RCA jack into that, and bam, they're good to go. Yeah.
Okay, so they have to have a PBX system, basically.
Yeah, right. Bingo. There you know the terminology. They've got a PBX. We don't charge them for the player. We give them that magical box, and it plugs in. There's no charge for that. part of our service.
But when you're going to be doing updates, like updating the message, that's done remotely? Is that
Well,
done,
yeah, what we
over the
do,
cloud?
we would update that message, email it to them. They put it on
Ah,
they have a folder on their desktop, on the laptop. Okay. We put the thumb drive, you put the thumb drive into the laptop, pull the old message off, put the new one on, bam, they're good to go. It's a 30-second deal. They don't have
okay.
to wait.
So set up and make,
Back in the old days, last century, we would have to send them the cassette or the CD, okay, to load that into the player. Now we just email it to them, so it cuts down the time. We email it to new message, they throw it in the file, put it on the thumb drive, and it's onboarded. Done.
sounds good. That's pretty easy.
It is. It's, and our cost, I mean, it's just, we offer a 45-day free test drive of doing the
Wow.
message. And then after that, it's a whopping $2 a day. It's $59 a month, month to month. No long-term commitment, no wedding ring involved. They're not getting married to us. Yeah. They want to try it for a year or whatever. That's fine. Okay. That's great if a dentist is going to sell his practice or retire.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sweat. I'm married to these guys for X number of decades. They're not.
I love that. And it's also, while you have it working, there's great potential for it to be helping you increase your bottom line anyway.
And then if
By
you sell your
retention.
practice to your associate or whatever, then the associate takes over that message, takes over the month-to-month agreement with us. We will just update the message, take the retiring dentist off, update it however the new dentist wants it, and they're good to go.
Sounds good.
It's
Okay.
easy peasy, but
It really does. Well, thanks for sharing that, John. I really appreciate you. Just full disclosure, John was one of my very first guests on a podcast, and I did such a terrible job with the tech that I lost the audio. So I had his video and I didn't have any of his words. So he very kindly and generously
sweat.
joined us again and re-recording his very first broadcast. So thanks
Got it.
so much for that. It's very kind of you to do
My
so.
pleasure, Monica.
Okay. And of course, in the show notes, you'll be able to find links to everything that John has to offer. We'll make sure that shows up in the show links. And hopefully, John, you'll be hearing from some of our listeners soon.
That'd be terrific. I appreciate that, Monica. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Dental Business Hub.